So today I am taking my Harbor Freight trailer on the back of my Toyota Sienna minivan about 600 miles. I've had this trailer about 2 years, and
don't forget to click that subscribe button.
So this is a 4x8 Harbor Freight folding trailer, and it's rated to hold 1,720 pounds. I believe I have about 1,000 pounds of stuff on there right now. The Toyota Sienna is rated to haul 3,500 pounds. When I bought this trailer, I had one of those Harbor Freight 20% off coupons, and I paid a grand total of about $500, including the lumber that I used to make the siding and getting the registration done. And that registration alone was only about $40. One of the lateral screws that hold the front brace together has broken. So you can see this screw here. I'll show you on the other side, the one that I recently replaced. Luckily, I checked the trailer before I took off, and I noticed that this screw was completely missing, and I replaced it. I'm not exactly sure when the original bolt broke, but it is held here, and this is a swinging lever arm that hold the trailer to the vehicle, and there's another pin here. So if that bolt broke while I was going down the road, it could possibly cause an accident. When I get to my destination today, I'm gonna go ahead and replace that bolt on the other side. This trailer did come in a box. I bolted everything together, and I did think at the time that the bolts were not the best quality, but I didn't think it was gonna break. I have had this trailer loaded up pretty heavily. I don't think I broke the limit. A couple times I have weighed it, and the most that I've weighed it was at 1,500 pounds, so it's rated at 1,720 pounds, and I've had it almost to its max weight with no issues. The way I check the hub temperature is I have this little thermometer, and I just put it on there, and right now they're about 101 degrees, but they get up to about 110 as I'm traveling. And as a point of reference, that's about 115, 120. Now remember, that wheel there has some braking force applied to it, so that makes it a little hotter than the hub on the trailer should be. The temperature is up to about 90 right now, and I just checked the bearings and they're still sitting at about 110 degrees. The back of the van looks a little low, but it's much higher than it would have been if I didn't have my red airlift shocks under there. All right, guys, I'm gonna show you those airlift air suspension real quick. Can you see there's a red airbag inside of the suspension there, and there's one on that side. I fill those up between 5 and 35 PSI, and those keep the suspension from bottoming out when I have my trailer loaded. One big disadvantage to hauling that trailer is I only get about 16 miles per gallon on the interstate. Normally I get about 23 to 25 in the Sienna, so it's really not that great of gas mileage. I have the deck as a standard size sheet of plywood, so a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of plywood. I bought that at a hardware store, and when I went in and bought it, I asked the guy at the hardware store just to rip it right in half, so they cut it right down the middle, so that if I wanted to, I can fold this trailer right here. It will stand up vertically and it will fold. When folded, this trailer has a footprint of about 2 feet by 5 feet, and it stands about 5 feet tall, so it doesn't take up a lot of space in its stored configuration. Here's a good view of that 4x8 sheet of plywood that I used for the decking for this. On this 4x8 sheet of plywood, I have carriage bolts. I bought a box of carriage bolts. It was like 30 bolts, 30 nuts for about 10 bucks. I got about 200 miles left on this trip. Trailer's holding up fine. This trailer, I believe now, has about 4,000 miles on it since I bought it in California 2 or 3 years ago. So I am able to monitor the transmission fluid temperature with my little OBD2 scan gauge that I have here. So it is over 200 degrees right now, which is on the high side, but it doesn't get too much higher than that. The highest I've seen it get is about 220. All right, guys, this is my last stop until I get to my destination, which is about an hour away. I carry this jack with me and this jack stand. That way if I get a blowout, I can lift that up and replace these. Replacement tires for this, they come on the rim already. They're only about $50. So I have these Bearing Buddy bearings on here, or bearing covers, and inside of there is a Zerk fitting, so I can just hook up my grease gun, pump some grease into there. It looks like it's gone down a little bit, so I'll pump that in, pump some grease in there before I leave on my way back. And the interesting thing is, as these heat up and as the grease kind of compacts in there, the cap will kind of develop a little bit of vacuum and stay on in place there. The coupler here came with chains, but I replaced it with these cables so that they're not dragging. My van here does have kind of a low amount of clearance, and I don't want to have the chains dragging on the pavement as I'm going up and down the interstate. So I loaned this trailer to my buddy a few months ago, and he had to cut this ground cable to use the trailer to make the cable reach to his connector. And the funny thing is, I do have all the lights individually grounded on the back of the trailer, and they work without this ground cable connected. So that's interesting. I've never been able to have success with an ungrounded trailer working like that. The first day I got this trailer, I was assembling it, and I dropped just slightly. I dropped the back of the trailer down, and this light housing shattered right off. So this is actually a replacement light housing. To mitigate breaking those further, I bought this kind of metal cover, and this metal cover has come in handy quite a bit, preventing these light housings from breaking off. All right guys, so I'm gonna swap these bolts out real quick. So because it's not a carriage bolt, you can see where it's been kind of wearing out right here. And so I think, luckily I don't think it's stretched, so I think before it breaks it's gonna stretch. Since it didn't stretch, it's still gonna be okay, but I have some suspension bolts that I happen to have that I will replace that with, and that will ensure that I don't have this issue. So if that broke while I was on the road, this whole piece could fall down and drag on the ground and cause an accident. That wouldn't be good. All right, so while I got this working on it, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of grease. So watch if you're watching that, you can see the inside is just kind of pumping out, unless the grease is just pumping out the backside. Nope, nothing's coming out of the backside, so good. I would say probably about 20 pumps with this, and if you see that Zerk fitting is slowly coming out as I'm pumping it. And there you go, I got fresh grease coming out the side there, and that's good. So I'll let that drip a little, and I'll do the other side. All right guys, I'm gonna put this trailer to use and move some wood around so I can start a big fire later.